Namaste. Welcome to the Interruptions podcast, where we talk to individuals who have dealt with trauma or interruptions in their personal or professional life. Because of that interruptions, our guests have implemented a program or provided services for people on a journey towards being resilient. Cathy and I are passionate about our faith, our social justice, and the effects that it has on our lives and in our community. During every episode, we will talk to you about actionable advice that you can apply today to reinvent yourself and to find the courage to have faith in the midst of your interruption. Our podcast today, this is the last of our three-part series titled Pursuit of Happiness. I am your co-host, Reverend O.
And I'm Cathy.
And we welcome you to Interruptions.
Yes, yes. Hey, Odell, I love your hat.
Listen, you said that you wanted 500 people to like our show.
That's
So
right.
I'm wearing the Santa hat. Granted the colors, sorry, but I'm wearing the Santa hat. And when I looked at myself in the mirror before I came on, I look like one of those people on the Netflix show.
You're funny. There's plenty of Christmas shows on there, right? You are funny.
Yes, and someone's always saying, "Santa, are you ready? Santa, are you ready?"
To ride your sleigh. That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Odell, who's our guest this evening?
Oh, we're our guest. Before we talk about our guest,
Yes.
we know that Tam could not make it today.
Oh, yep.
We know that she had a interruption, so that we wish her prayers as she deals with what she has to do at work.
Yes,
Correct?
yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
before we bring our guest in, I wanted to circle back and to talk to you about last week.
Okay. All right.
So tell me, Cathy, how was last week for you? This is the end of our three-part series, and last week the guest, I'm glad I found her, and she was for you.
I
Um,
know.
and so I want to get your feedback because we never get a chance to talk about what it was like for us on this journey. So what was it like for you last week?
Well, I think first to acknowledge Reverend Higgins, and I know that she shared with us her story of being in an abusive relationship and all that she does in her ministry now, helping other women through making them feel pretty, giving them jewelry, and she does makeup, and so I so appreciate her sharing that and what she came through, and now really to be able to do that type of ministry with other women that not only had been in abusive relationships but may be homeless, and so very different take on that. And so but then Laura, with the singing to the children with autism, thank you for my gift, I loved it, and you didn't have to wrap it either. And so
No.
uh, that was it was amazing to me. And just with just a few words, what she's been able to really bring to not just children but adults with autism as
Yeah.
well. And I think what really resonated with me is the fact of using music. And how does music impact us, right? And so you think about it, if you're in the store and you hear your song coming on, or in the car and you just start moving, right? Or you hear that song that brings back a childhood memory.
Yes.
The other morning at work, someone was playing a song that made me think of my father and things that he loved that song. And so immediately my thoughts went to thinking about him, right? And
Right.
so what music does for you to be able to just stop for a minute, it makes you think.
It does.
It does. It does. It makes you think. It makes you reflect back on times. It makes you, sometimes it'll make you smile. Sometimes it'll make you cry. For me, what she brought with that lesson was joy, but also thoughts of potential tears, right? Because if I saw what she sees, how it impacts a children or a child or an adult with autism, like she said, one student that she worked with would use their hands, but now they were using their hands more effectively to
Correct.
show a type of emotion. to be able to voice the emotion of being angry or being happy. That's really it was just near and dear to my heart. And I
Oh boy.
appreciate so much of what she did because that takes thought. She wrote a book, she has a little CD. And so
Yes.
that just to be able to sit and say, what would really impact the people that I'm working with, the children, the adults, to make them listen to me for a minute. And they did. They
And
did. So I appreciate that gift. I appreciate the gift that she brings as well to that
yes.
talent.
Yes. Listening to Garland, she's come a long way.
Hmm.
And this was the first time because I've sold Mary Kay back in the day, but
Ah,
I did it for supplemental income.
that's right.
And she has taken it and said, yes, a supplemental income, but I'm also going to give it away to women who are in battered homes. And I made a donation to her and
Oh.
said, here's $20 and take some jewelry and give it to the women in the shelters. So when they start looking for jobs virtually, or however they're going out, or just to make them feel good. Doesn't
Hmm.
even have to be a job, just to put on something just to make you feel good, because we've been stuck where we are
Yes.
for so long.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
yes.
So, Odell, what you're talking about our last podcast, but
Mhm.
prior to that, you shared in the first podcast of our three-part series, you shared a story with us about the dining room table and Thanksgiving,
Oh
right? And
yes.
I kind of want to bring because I didn't hear the end result of that. I know that you talked about that you were going to go out and buy a new dining room table, but kind of share with our audience a little bit about that again and really what happened. What happened with
Okay,
it?
so the since my son passed away, and I call it our interruption, my daughter has not been able to sit at the dining room table,
Hmm.
and she's been saying to me for 4 years, it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel the same. But she'll sit at the table if other people are there.
Mm.
So it never dawned on me. And honestly, to be truthful, she said it makes me sad. But
Mm.
because it didn't make me sad to sit at the table, I honestly dismissed her triggers. I dismissed what was important to her until this Thanksgiving when I woke up and it was just the two of us. And the thought of sitting at the table with just the two of us made me sad. And I said, this is what Jackie's been talking to us about. Oh my goodness. And I listened to her. And because I listened to her, I talked to her and I heard her. She said more to me this time. So, being the mom that I am, I went out and I broke down the perfectly good dining room table that nothing was wrong.
That nothing was wrong with it.
Nothing was wrong. And I got another table, a different shape, a little higher so it feels different, it looks different. I decorated the table different, and she sat at the table and she ate with us. And I don't know, Kevin, I sent him the picture if he's listening so that you could see. But this is the first time she has sat at the dining room table in 4 years.
Wow.
And what that has taught me is to listen. Just because her triggers weren't my trigger, they weren't less important.
Hmm.
Depression is depression.
Right.
And she's been living with this for 4 years. And I finally did something about it and I was happy, and so was she.
Hmm.
And now she's eating at the kitchen table. And my granddaughter was like, oh, finally.
That's what you said.
Yeah, finally, you came to see me. So,
Oh,
so
how did that
yes,
make you feel, though?
it made me feel good. And I'll
Yeah.
ask Kevin to post a picture at the end. But
Okay.
it made me feel good. But what I learned from it the most was it's never too late to listen to people's triggers or depressions,
Yeah.
because they're still real. And it may not be my trigger, but it was hers, and I finally listened. So that was good. And she was glad that I went out, and she wouldn't help me break the table down, put the
She
new
did.
one up. She just watched. And but nonetheless, it's done. And she was
Oh,
able to sit with us. And so it made me feel good that I listened and we're still talking.
That makes a difference, right? That
It
makes a difference.
does. It does.
Odell, did you know this is our 14th podcast?
14. How about
I
that?
know, a lucky
I'm
14. Well,
excited.
every podcast is lucky for us. But this is actually our third podcast in our first series.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in our series, although always we talk about trauma and how it can impact your life, but this particular series has been really near and dear to both of us when we're talking about the pursuit of happiness, because we finally made that decision. We know that people go through trauma in their life, but we wanted to move to a part of action, moving now to try and help yourself, although we will never say not to seek professional help should you think that you need that.
Yes.
How has this in this series, not so much the whole podcast, but in this series, how's that been an impact for you? How has it affected you?
Oh, it's been wonderful. I think we've had some very interesting guests.
Mhm.
We started off with Yes, Darling Tea.
Yeah.
And,
Yes, I'm waiting for my order in the mail.
and the other entrepreneur who teaches knitting and crochet and
Mhm.
different arts and crafts, which was very unique, because it's going to snow later on today, so you'll be in the house, so you
I
have
know,
so
I
start
know. I'm
crocheting
kind
and
of looking
knitting.
forward to it.
So we've had some very interesting guests who have taught us a lot, and having Tam on for the last 2 weeks has taught me a lot between the difference in depression and sadness.
Mhm. Mhm.
And all this started, I always thank you for joining me. All this started because I people have always said, you know, journal, journal. You have to write your story. And I'm like, I'm too angry to write my story. I
Mhm.
didn't want to journal because my words would have been mad at God. Where's my son?
Mhm.
I didn't have anything to say, but just pain. And how do
Mhm.
you write pain?
Yeah.
And then read it to make sure it sounds correctly. So I didn't write pain. And then after the aneurysm, people kept saying, "Oh, are you journaling?" I'm like, no. No,
Stop
I'm not
pushing.
journaling. I
Yeah.
I can barely read, less known write. So
Yeah.
I couldn't journal then. And then when I wrote the production, people said, "Well, you should be better now because you wrote your story
Mhm.
and you've got it out of your system." And it's no, it's
No.
that's not the end of it. So that's what led us to today,
Yes.
journaling our story. And if you're anything like me, I have 6 or 7 journals, and it's like start finish, don't know what to
Oh,
write.
okay. I was gonna say you filled 6 or 7 journals. I'm jealous.
No, yeah, 2 pages in one.
Oh.
Then I say maybe I need a spiral bound. So one of our guests tonight is we have Dr. Annette Madlock, and she's the entrepreneur and the CEO. I'm not sure what title she gives herself, of Sisters of Writers, Sisters Circle Writing. And we have Robert Fulton, and he's in the production as well, and he does fitness. So
Yes.
during this pandemic, do you journal what you eat? Do you journal your fitness? How do you take care of yourself in the midst of all of this? So these are the last 2 guests we have in our series. So let's welcome them to the room.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi, Annette.
Hey.
Hi, Robert.
Hello,
Hello.
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 Rob, have you been working out hard today? Is that why you sound sad?
Back at 9
I
Well,
worked out today.
good for you. Good for you. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, Annette, I have to share that my journaling expertise is very limited, and so for about the 30th or 40th time, I went out and brought a journal. And I am hoping that the saying on the front is not going to be the only words yet again in my journal. I start out really strong. I do.
Mhm,
I sign a little message to myself,
mhm.
and the next day I am ready, and I just start writing everything, and then that's it. So
And that's okay.
That's
It's
it.
okay. But see, that's okay because we're all different.
Yeah.
We process different. We do things differently. So yes, I have a lot of journals. I have journals I've written in, and that the process of journaling and writing down all my thoughts that I'm thinking, I'm just like, you know what? I don't feel like doing that today. So I put it aside. And then maybe 6 months, maybe the next year, I pick it up and I just kind of look through and I was like, oh, yeah, okay, completed, done, resolved. I'm still working on that. So, I mean, it happens. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. We have journals for everything. We do. We journal our food when we're trying to eat right and diet. We spend time doing that. We'll journal our exercise.
Do you
We
journal,
will.
Rob?
Pardon
Rob,
me?
do you journal?
Yeah, Rob, do you journal?
I've been lucky enough to have it here for myself and for most of my clients.
Yeah.
1 second. Let me just find that thing. So
What
my
thing?
journal is a little bit different. It's missing right now, so that'll tell you how long it's been. But it's right here.
What is that?
A
That's
thumb
his
drive.
jump drive.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know what?
So I find quiet time once in a while in the gym. I plug it in and be like, okay, I read that, and then okay, this is what happened, and now keep going forward and go and go and go and go, and then it'd be like, hello, or somebody comes to the door, pull it out, put it away.
That's a good point. But Annette, what started you journaling, and when did you start about?
I started, it was similar to what Reverend O said. When I was first diagnosed with breast cancer, people were like, oh, you need to write this down. You need to journal that. Okay. And I had the same, I was like, I don't want to remember this. Yeah. I don't want to write this down. I don't want to relive the process. But I did write, but I wrote in the form of updates for my family. So I wouldn't have to verbally keep repeating myself.
Okay.
So I would write that way. And
I'm
so
not sure. Annette, what
was
does that mean? You wrote for updates for your family?
People wanted to know how I was doing. So I would write about how I was doing. I would write about my treatment. I would write about my treatment plan. I was writing about the medications, the chemotherapy I was on. I would write about the going through the radiation treatments. Just all those different things, because how are you doing? How are you doing? Well, it sucks. It sucks today. I really don't want to talk to you. I'm going in here and I'm just going to go to sleep. I'm going to lay down. No. And so just kind of to continue to write about those things. And I didn't write every single day, but I would write the major events that might have happened. And so when I had to do genetic testing, I wrote about that particular thing.
Yes.
I wrote about the results of that. When I had to have a bilateral mastectomy with reconstruction, I wrote about that particular thing. So I didn't keep writing every single day. Okay. You work, you keep busy, you do that thing with the crochet. One year I made every one of my nieces a scarf. Okay. I can get it done. And so that was it. But that journaling, and because I spent a lot of years in higher ed working as a faculty member, you have to write and you have to publish for that tenure and promotion thing. So I did that, but I had to leverage my experience to do that, because I didn't want to write about something that was just taking me way out of what needed to happen. So I used that experience to not only work my career, but also be able to use that to get the message of Black women in breast cancer and culture and identity and what all that means out into other hands. And part of that work was my journal, because that was there's this thing called autoethnographic research. So that's when we write about ourselves. So I use that. And then you talk about using your words when you're mad at God. That was another piece. I wrote about that. I was like, what? Why And
We
other
need
women I talked to were the same. Why me? We're asking these questions. Yeah, we were mad, but we wrote about it. And then I put that in another book about God's word for our healing and what that would look like. And so sometimes, yeah, you're mad at God. You write it and you just put it out, and then you can, with that, you don't know it at the time, but it really does help reduce your anxiety.
Okay.
And you put the information. If you're going to write for yourself, that's wonderful. If you are going to write for others, it's wonderful. And then the other piece to consider is to bring it back around to family stories and narratives. There are nieces and nephews that need to know your story. Good.
Yep.
Whatever it is.
That's right.
You're writing family history and family stories for the next generation. So those journals, I don't care if you have 10 and it's 2 pages, you pull all that stuff together to create that story.
I thought it was funny that one of the first things that you talked about, because I want to ask Rob about this a little bit. One of the first things you talked about is you said, if you're trying to lose weight, you journal. If you are trying to watch what you're eating, you journal. And so I thought that was really funny that you went right to that trigger. And I know that when I teach exercise, that's one of the exercises I try and share with people, to start writing things down. And so Rob, tell us a little bit when you're meeting with a first client, because really understanding that in our podcast, we talk about trauma and things that may impact a person's life. And so we don't always, someone would say, oh, it's not traumatic that you gain 10 pounds or 20 pounds. That doesn't count as trauma. But for some people, it does, right? Yeah. And so when women come into your gym, and I shouldn't say women, I'm not going to even say that, but people are on a different journey when they're coming into your gym, right? And so there's a reason why they're coming to you. Do you encourage your clients to start to journal or write things down, and why?
Well, yes, I guess you'll say everybody's journey is different. I can go back to a first case. A friend of mine was another trainer, said, I'm sending you somebody. And he sent me this anorexic young lady. And when she walked through the door, my first thing was, this is what it costs. This is what we're going to do. But I need authorization from your doctors before I can put my hands on it. Then finding out she went from an obese diabetic, and her family traumatized her mentally, so she became anorexic. And to look like an Ethiopian, osteoporosis, all that other stuff going on, the self-vomiting, all that stuff, to then get the okay from the doctor that she was okay to train, to give her a journal and say, okay, today's workout is this. This is how you're going to eat. These are your meds. You need to take them on time. Along with these meds, you need to take these supplements. And once your doctor says all of this is okay, then we can start training. And then I got a call. Normally, back in the day, that was before HIPAA, you could have a conversation with a doctor in regards to a patient who was starting something at that level. Nowadays, even Odell has a journal to work out with, to make sure every 2 weeks her workouts are training. I still have all your paperwork, Cathy. It was funny. One of the younger trainers asked me, do you have all of your information on all your clients? I have my first client's file that I trained in my basement back in 1996.
Wow.
And I would not throw that paperwork away, because that paperwork is part of their journey, knowing that at any given time something may happen. And now I need to go back to that reference to say, this is where you were, this is where we are, and now we need to get back to this level. And going back to what you're saying for triggers, just recently I lost my father in June, right? And then mad at God because he died the week before Father's Day, because we couldn't go out on his birthday because of COVID. So we were going to go out on Father's Day, but he decided to leave that Saturday, so we didn't get to next Sunday. Mad at God. And then realizing I had another situation yesterday, upset because my brother's not here. But it's over 20-some years. So I understand the mad at God thing. And it's like, what about me? But it was better for him not to suffer anymore.
Yes.
for me to carry him to and from dialysis, for him to
Right.
go through all those crazy things and chemotherapy, but for him to pass away at home and be comfortable around his family. And to understand that wasn't mine, that was for him to be comfortable. Not for me to be selfish to the son, because I wanted to take him to the special place for his birthday, for Father's Day, just not being selfish. And sometimes when things happen, we do become selfish because we love that person and we want to blame somebody else or some other thing for that pain that we're feeling.
So sometimes we write out, Odell, you shared, and Annette, you shared that sometimes we write out our pain. But that's really interesting, because I found, I thought it would be helpful for me, having a child with autism, to begin to write out how I was feeling. But what I found was that it was painful to write out, and I didn't think I was ready to begin to write that. I found it too painful to write. So one of the things, Annette, I want to ask you, I know you're talking about journaling. Is there a difference between journaling and writing?
Journaling is more, you don't care if the grammar is right. You just want to get everything out at the moment, at that time.
Thank you.
So you're not looking for perfection at all. And so it's just like a stream of consciousness.
Okay.
It does not have to make, the only person it needs to make sense to is you. The journal, it's for you. Now, when you want to begin to do other things with your journal, let's say you want to share that story with your family members in a more formal way, then maybe you go in and fix the grammar and the language and all those different things. But when you're journaling, it's just for you. At that point, it's for your eyes only. Back in the olden days, it would have been your diary.
No. Yes. That I was afraid if I wrote something in there, my mother might find it. And so.
Yes.
Exactly. I said, what if something happens to me and someone reads this? It's going to be in my diary. My mother will kill me, even if something happens to me. And
so people think that we're supposed to write our pain and not our joys, our highs, our loves, our gratefulness, our gratitudes in life.
Gratitude journals, yeah.
It's so you're saying you can write our food diary, which I do. I have to keep track of all my exercises, because for me, if I don't write it down, then I'm not going to do it. I'm not held accountable for. But if once I write it down, it's on paper, I'm going to do it. And I tell Rob, tell me what to do so I can write it in my book. Tell me. And he just looks at me. So once I write it, I'm going to do it.
Right.
And it's definitely a way, that's just another way of being accountable to ourselves. So we write it down, and then instead of having, just making a to-do list, this is our to-do action list. This is really what we want to do. And yes, gratitude journals are awesome. Be thankful for everything. And write down the things you're thankful for, because maybe that's what you have to remember in your journal, to take away all the negative thoughts and all those things that happen to every one of us. Something is like, I really don't want to think about that. I don't want to think like that. What good happened today? Yeah, Rob?
Well, just think, I have clients who get fitness sheets. And every 3 to 4 weeks, we go through measurements. And they'll go, well, I was down, okay, but then Thanksgiving came. And instead of having Thanksgiving, you had Thanksgiving weekend, which made a big difference.
See, and therefore, I think that's why I had such a hard time writing things down for you, Robert, because I knew I wanted to hold myself accountable. It wasn't me that I was worried about. It was having to share it with you and having to.
Because I can make light of it. Let's say, okay, Thanksgiving, you had turkey, mashed potatoes, you had sweet potatoes, you had whatever. And then you had those wonderful fruit drinks and then the pies and all that other stuff. So most people go, well, I had Thanksgiving Day. Then the next day you have some with discipline who get back on. and then forget that this stuff had a lot of butter, a lot of love, a lot of salt, a lot of flavor. So those things
Yes.
made you a little bit more fluffier than normal. And I like doing measurements after holidays, so people get to see this is what food does to you. So food can heal you, and
Yeah.
food can make you sick. Making the right choices can heal you. Making the wrong choices can make you sick.
Mhm.
So eating the good, healthy stuff. And I've got a video out probably like 15 years when back in the day we used to have 10-inch plates. Now we've got everybody has a serving tray now. So if you decided to say, take this 10-inch plate and I'm going to have a taste of everything. So
Yeah.
now I've salivated my palate. I'm good. I didn't have to have all the macaroni and cheese, all the sweet potato pie, but I got to taste everything. And then instead of all of those fancy, wonderful drinks, I had a big glass of water to help wash that down. I'm doing better than the person sitting there at the table with, well, I'm on plate number 3. And then they
I
got
did
the item.
have water. I had water mixed with smashed grapes. And so
There you go. Or you know what? You could have
You
did
remember juice glasses used to be like this
that's
big?
right.
A
That's
drink
right,
Yes.
right?
juice. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. That's
Now
right.
everything's 16 ounces or more.
That's
Mhm.
right.
And then
That's
people
right.
32
forget, oh,
ounces.
Yeah.
it's 2 servings.
So you're funny. You are
So
funny.
when you're thinking about journaling, because it goes with what Robert's talking about, it's a way for you to look at the goals you've achieved,
Yeah.
where you
Mm-hmm.
want to go. It keeps a record. You can track your progress, your growth for anything. With that, it can help you improve your self-confidence because you're keeping track and you're staying on course. Definitely, because you're getting information out, you are definitely improving your communication skills and your
Mhm.
writing skills to pull those things out. And like I stated earlier, it's also a way for some of us to reduce our anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
but also remembering that writing things down and reliving it is not good for somebody else.
Right.
Right.
So journaling it's like with everything, it depends on you. It depends on you as a person and where you are and how you feel about that. So
When I was writing Interruptions, and I had the table readings, my trauma specialist was in the room, and she said, "Odell, that's not what we talked about." And I'm like, "I don't remember what we talked about." So she went back to the office. She pulled out my notes from 3 years ago, and she reminded me later in a private conversation what what I was anxious about, what I was mad about with God.
mm-hmm,
And she said, "That's what you write about." But I had to go back and relive that moment in time and how I felt when I learned the truth about my son. Not that he was shot, but now he's murdered, and what it felt like and what I said when I was in counseling. But one of the things that she encouraged me to do, she says, write, she says, document it, but don't stay there.
mm-hmm,
You know,
exactly.
you've come far enough that you can write it, but I need you to remove yourself and to do
Mm-hmm,
something else that's healthier for you.
Mhm.
And I could not have done that early on
Right.
after the interruption because I would not have had the skill set to move myself away from that. I would have stayed there.
Mhm.
And I remember showing up at Rob's place, my body was damaged. I just looked at him and I said, I can't lift, I can't bend, my shoulders messed up, my neck, my head. And, you know, he kept saying, I have to mentally work with you before I can get you to physically do the work. And we had to write
mm-hmm.
everything down. And I still have to write everything down. He says, write it down, write it down. And now I have to draw pictures of what I'm writing down so I remember what these exercises are.
That's another tool for journaling. Sometimes you just get the blank the book with no lines on it.
Uh-huh.
Because doodling is a way to journal as well.
Is it?
Doodling and drawing. Yes, some people are visual and artistic in that way, and words aren't what they need to do. They just need to draw. They need to doodle. And so that is another way to journal.
And I want to come back to you because I really want to ask you really how do we begin, but I know that Rob is in a time crunch and he has a spin class to torture people. I mean, to go help people find their better self. Yes.
I set my outdoor bike up on a trainer in my living room. So I do get on that twice a week, and then yoga once a week. I'm easing into the heavy lifting again. So
add another one and then keep moving.
So Rob, I was hoping that Odell would share that her body was damaged when she came to see you, but I think it wasn't so much her physical body. It was, like you said, you had to work with her mentally, right? To kind of get in her mind to get her where she needed to be. But she's not the only person that has come to you like that. So how do you work with people that come into you that are challenged by trauma or things in their life that they are having a hard time dealing with? Listen, I've been on 30 diets. I've tried everything and I can't lose it. I can't, I try. And so how do you work with people like that?
Everybody's a different situation. And everyone has to be handled carefully. Everybody has feelings. Most people don't like that lactic acid burn. And then once your muscles start burning and trying to get your body to understand, and most people don't understand that during exercise, when we release endorphins in our head, which stimulates the growth in every part of the body, trying to get people to understand that that's a good thing. And it's not me trying to torture them, as Cathy would say, but it's basically helping them to relieve stress and helping their bodies open up to more fluidity, more circulation, more blood flow, more mental stimulation of the brain, being to access parts that have been shut down in regards to movement of the whole entire body.
Yeah. That's really key. And I know, Rob, that you've taught us, just like you said, that you keep a record of everyone that has come to see you. I thought it was really just to torture us even more. But I know that's, you did say that it is a journey, which is great. And though I do congratulate you for doing that and for encouraging your clients to really write down, to be accountable for what they're eating, because once you see it, it does become real.
And it allows you to make big changes. So a whole client of mine basically said, I used to have a bag of blueberries once a week. There was 4 servings. So let's have 1 serving a week. And then let's take this and break this down into 1 serving a week. And before you know it, the weight goes down. The body functions better. The joints aren't swollen because I put too much of this or too much of that in it. Now I have more fluidity in my movement and I feel better. And it's just making the right choices and making sure it's the right amount.
Right. Odell I know you found it very helpful because you talk about your pain. I mean, you talk about your sessions with Rob with love. I hear it when you talk about it. So
I mean, I almost feel sorry for him sometimes because, I mean, he calls me, I forgot the name that he calls me, and he'll tell me in a second. But because of the brain aneurysm, I honestly forget what I'm supposed to do. And I don't remember the exercise that I did 2 weeks ago. Even though it's written down, I don't remember it. And I went to him today and I said, Rob, what is this? He's like, I don't know. He said, what? I don't know what that exercise is. So that's when I said, I'm going to start making pictures next to this machine, do this, the inside. So my exercises, I will go back to him and say, I don't remember how to do this. But he never gets upset with me. Brain, special ed child. I forgot what you call me. What is it, Rob? You know it. You can say it.
Yeah, special ed crackhead.
Crackhead. He calls me a crackhead.
We don't want to say that. We don't want to say that.
We'll be sitting here. We'll be having a discussion, and I have to look over, reminding myself she had an aneurysm. So when I say one arm bent over row or cable pull downs, I have to make sure she writes cable pull down. So today she wrote stretch dumbbell row.
That's
No,
funny.
it was not a stretch dumbbell row. I'm like, that's not an exercise. So as I'm looking through the rest of the sheets, knowing that she's doing back and buys, the one that was missing was an upright cable row, which was something she needed to do. So we were able to fix that calmly and with some fun and love.
With fun and love. And it's and I'm not the only one that comes in there who don't, I'm struggling with this, but that's why I like the gym, because they're patient, and I can go to Rob and say, all right, I don't remember, I need some help, show me. And he'll just look at me, and he'll show me, and it makes me feel better, and I complete all my exercises, and I'm happy. I'm running on the treadmill, and I'm lifting weights that I couldn't lift before, that I couldn't even move before.
Yeah.
Now I'm lifting them, and I'm writing them down to say, I remember 2 weeks ago I couldn't. And when I look back, I go, check, I can.
That's right. And you can check off the boxes, which I love.
Mhm.
That's always wonderful. Rob, I know that we're tight with time with you and that you
He's
do
got
have
to
a
go.
spinning class. I know. Thank you. But Rob, we're going to be talking to you. We don't want to spoil it for our audience, but we're going to be talking. We are going to be moving into a different type of series. This is our last one for this series, but we will be contacting you. And we appreciate, although we may not say it directly to you, or even in your presence, but maybe later, maybe we do appreciate all that you do and all that you bring to so many people. You've made an impact, a positive impact on their lives, not just on their bodies, but on their minds as well. So we appreciate that. And thank you for joining us. And I know you have to change and go to your class, but thank you.
You're welcome. We'll see you
Thank
later.
you. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so Annette,
Mm-hmm.
here it is. All right.
Yes.
So can I just send it to you and you fill it in for me? That would be so much easier. But really, how do you start? Like you said,
Yes.
I know you said you have a journal for everything. I just want
You
to
can
finish one.
just finish one. You just write. If you carry it with you, write in it. If you have it
Okay.
by your bedside, write in it. If maybe you're binge watching something on Netflix, and sometimes you're doing that, but you're really doing that as a way to like decompress. And so your brain is really thinking about something else. Just write in your journal.
Now, okay, we're
Some
gonna.
people are good at blocking off time to write, and other people are like me. I just have to write when the moment comes, and then I'll pull it out. And sometimes it's in the journal you have, or I have to write it on a scrap of paper and transfer it because I didn't bring my journal. But that's it. Yeah.
Okay, so for someone who writes for a career, so we're
Mhm.
gonna really go basic with you. Do we
Okay.
start our journal with dear journal, dear day?
Here's my pen. See, and here's
Today
my problem. Where's my pen? And so,
Oh, sometimes if you want to start it out formal like that, you can. Some days you've heard it before. Dear God, it's me, Annette. Maybe I'm writing a conversation to God that day.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's how I might start it. Maybe I'm talking
Oh.
to myself. I'm my audience. I'm just, dear Annette, what was wrong? What was that about?
Okay.
So yeah, so sometimes you're the audience. Maybe you're writing a letter to God. Maybe you're writing to somebody else that you feel you want to talk to. I have had those moments where I've been thinking about my grandmother, and I'm like, Grandma, what would you do if you were here?
Oh.
So it
Can you
doesn't
help
have.
me with that?
So every
Yes.
day can be different.
It can be different. It doesn't have to be a
Okay.
continuous thing. It can be different every single day.
Do you
Okay.
have to touch on every point in your day when you
Oh,
write?
you only do that if that's what you want to do.
Okay, but you
Yeah.
don't have to.
You do not have to. There are no rules to this. Now, I have one really good friend. She writes in her journals, and they're numbered, and she fills them up.
Wow.
So she has, but that's what she does. That's her. And then I'm like Cathy, I'm like Reverend O. I have a couple journals. I pulled out journals from, I think I wrote in that for like a week. I have a lot of empty pages left.
Okay.
I'm just gonna, so I just date it and then just go on, and you can see. You go back, you look at it, see what's happened, what didn't happen.
This might sound like, I'm sorry, Odell. This might sound like a silly question, but so if I'm writing something, and I think I'm on the same page as Odell because we have so many questions. So if I'm writing something, do I have to fill up the page or no? Okay.
No, okay. Maybe it's 2 sentences. Maybe it's 3 sentences.
Okay.
There are no rules to journaling.
So it could be an emotion, it could be a feeling, it could be a thought, it could be a section of your day, it could be the whole day, a letter to an individual, to yourself, a segment of your feelings.
Yes.
And even if I miss writing in my journal every day and I pick it up 2 weeks later, don't get a new journal, just keep going.
Just keep going in the same one. Just keep going. You know, if you put the date in it, just date it at the top. And just keep going.
Okay.
Just keep going from where you are. Just keep going from where you are.
Oh, this is wonderful.
That's what you do.
What made you start Sister Circle Writers?
Yes.
I wanted to find a way to do what I love to do and share it with other people. And I was doing it anyway. So I started a little in 2016. Colleagues, we'd see each other once a year at a conference. And we're like, oh, let's get together and write. So one day I finally said, you know what, we're going to do this. So I was at Southern Connecticut State University and I wrote a little grant. And I had my colleagues on campus came, and I was really blessed because I had colleagues come from Philadelphia. They came in from Atlanta. I had colleagues call in and come in virtually from California. It was wonderful. And many of them came out of their own pocket to stay and write for 4 days. And so out of that came people published books. They had articles. They came up just kind of writing a whole plan for their promotions. And so what I get out of this is I get to see my sisters, Black women, getting their thoughts out, and it's poetry. Doesn't have to even be academic. It's poetry. It's their personal stories. They're living with trauma and they just want to write their stories and share it with other women so they know that they're not alone. So what I get out of it is the joy to see them write and get what they have in their head, get it out on paper and disseminate it. It's community work, community service work they're writing about. It's a proposal so they can do something at a women's center. It's all of those things. It's not just one kind of thing because we're all so different. And I just want to be a conduit to encourage them to get their work done and to get their voices out there. So Sister Circle, the writing piece for me is something I love. And then I just want to share that joy with others and to let them know you can do it. I always say, this is the thing I say, just get it out of your head and we'll make it pretty later. So I will help you make it pretty. If you want to publish it or do any of those things, I will help you make it pretty. So if you have an idea and you're not sure where you want to go with it, I can help you with that. So that's one of the things anyone who knows me and knows my work, they'll know, oh, you need help with fleshing out an idea? Talk to Annette. Okay. Oh, pulling people together so they can work because they're not exactly the same, but they're complementary. Those two people need to work together. You guys can support each other. Do that. Okay. And so that's Sister Circle Writers. That's what I do. That's
wonderful.
And I got an email from her. And I'm part of the VIP list. She invited me to to the VIP list.
Is that
So
for
I'm
our
in.
audience or for me? Was that
That's
just
listen. I'm in the VIP list. So I had the invitation in the VIP list to join the morning check-in or something. I forgot what she called it.
The
And
Sister Circle Writers morning. We have a morning writers meetup.
yes, so I'm up. I got my laptop. I have no idea what it is. And then she's like, everybody, other women are in the room and they're either writing their dissertation, they're writing a novel because it's what
that's
they're
awesome.
required to do, or they're writing a journal, or they're writing something. And I'm in the room and it felt powerful. And Cathy, these were women who they were Dr. such and such. I'm doing my PhD. I'm at my dissertation. I'm at my post ed doc. And I'm like, I am not. I am Odell and I am in the room and I'm happy to be in the room. And I'm working on the last 3 chapters of Interruptions.
That's wonderful.
And I was getting work done and I looked over and everybody else was, like this and they were working and typing, but just the energy
Mm-hmm.
to be in the space and to
Yes.
not feel intimidated, because there was a time that I would have been intimidated by doctor, postdoc, pre-doc, PhD. Nope, I felt good
That's
to
Mm-hmm.
be
wonderful.
in the space.
I have a sorority sister, and she's my friend as well, and she's a professor, but she's wrote her first book, and she would have to go to the library to write. That's where she felt that she could write the best. And she was really dedicated with it. And so that's good to hear, Odell, that you're talking about this type of forum because you don't necessarily have to be in the same place, but you're in the same place at this place like a Zoom or
Mm-hmm.
something at the same time, which really makes you accountable to yourself, right? You know this is something you want to do. So I love to hear about that. I love that. And then Annette, you said that you helped make it look pretty because you'd have a lot of work to do with me. You might kick Odell out of her VIP just for introducing me to you.
No.
Don't get me kicked
No.
out.
Uh-uh. No.
Now,
That synergy is what was created back in 2016. Because I had all the, if you know, at Southern Connecticut State, Adante Student Center, nice new, buildings
Yes.
and lots of rooms. Booked all those rooms up there. Man, and
Oh,
nobody wanted
I
all those
saw
rooms.
you.
Nobody wanted all those rooms. We were
Oh,
all in
no.
one room. Why?
Yes.
Because the energy was it was a phenomenal energy.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then
Yes.
Dr. Mary Evans, after I left, we continued to do the Sister Circle Writers on the campus of the school.
Yes.
And
I
so
did. I
it would just
passed
keep
by
going.
when you were doing something in the class, and I was like, I wonder what they're doing. You know how you want to just see what the other kids are doing while you're.
That's what we were doing, and it didn't matter
wow.
what discipline, their nursing, education. It was like whatever you were, part of Sister Circle Writers, because that was what we needed to do. And then once I wasn't there at the school, I still needed to do Sister Circle Writers. I still had to do it. And so just kind of taking that and just doing it every place. And now it's virtual. So everybody from everywhere, we meet up.
Okay.
We talk about our work. And in January, I'm doing something. I'm doing a yoga for writers retreat, because what I found was the practice of yoga and just learning that gave me so much more energy for my writing, and my creativity bubble just burst open.
Yoga's not easy.
It is not easy. I'm only moving like this much, and I'm drenching sweat.
That's right. People think it's easy, but it is not easy.
It is not easy. So I'm on that. I'm doing it, and I'll experiment on myself first. And so I can let people know how it really is. So it's like, I'm not going to bring you anything that I haven't tried. And so this is wonderful. And the yoga instructor, her Miss Joanna Brooks. I love her because she can facilitate the virtual yoga classes, because she's showing, demonstrating, talking you through, but she has her eye on you. I don't care if you're on Zoom. The only way she won't see you is if your camera's not on. Yeah. So she's still spotting and checking and encouraging. And I love a young Black sister teaching yoga and is patient and knows how to work with all body types in all levels of yoga. So she's going to be doing that, working with 4 sessions. So you write with me on Friday nights. I'm your writing coach on Friday nights. Oh. And then you work with her on Saturday mornings. So we have, that's going to be for 4 weeks. It's going to be wonderful. And the focus is personal narrative or family stories. So yeah.
Yes. And I'm being in the VIP room. I have resources that are available to me. I didn't even know about a Hemingway app. I said, what's a Hemingway app? And
yeah, there's so much. Yeah,
there's so many resources out there, and I've downloaded the Hemingway app, and I've copied and pasted my chapter in there, and it's telling me active words, too wordy, difficult to read, don't understand this, rephrase this, and I'm fighting with this thing. I don't understand. What are you talking about? But I'm learning and being exposed to so much, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. But Cathy, I have to tell you.
Yes.
So interesting. You know that I posted on social media, because you're not out there. I posted on social media that my biological sister found me 2 months ago.
Yes.
And I told you the story.
Yes.
She's 75, and
I'm sure she's grateful to you for sharing her age, but that's okay.
That's true. But so she's 75, and she finds me through ancestry.com.
Wonderful.
So she's never met our father. So he was in the service and wasn't, let's just leave it there. Okay. She never met our dad. And so she finds me, and we're talking, we're catching up, and it's amazing. So find out that she was at Howard. She started teaching at Howard the year I graduated. And it's amazing that we missed each other. So I posted on social media. All of a sudden, Annette says, "You mean the Reverend Dr. Marsha Klingscale?" And I read it and I go, "Yeah, that must be her." She goes, "She was my professor at Howard."
Oh my goodness.
So Annette knows my sister that I have not met yet.
I love her.
That's wonderful.
She's the bee's knees.
Oh, now I haven't heard that. And that might be the first thing I write in my journal. I haven't, because I haven't heard that in a minute. I'm going to write that down.
She is.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
She knows my sister, and it's just like, wow. So we haven't met yet.
That's a small world, but we are going, because we're going to talk about that. We have so many good things coming up in 2021, right?
We do.
Yeah. So, Annette, I just want to quickly ask you, I know we're about to wrap up, but quickly ask you, I've been in the car or somewhere, and I've had a thought. I don't have my journal with me, or, because I don't have one, but what about people actually recording their thoughts or their ideas? What do you share about
that? You have your phone, and I have a little voice recorder. It's voice activated, so if you just turn it on in the car and you start talking, it'll pick it up. So if you can have a little digital voice recorder, and it'll create the MP file, and you can just put it on your computer. And I also have Dragon Naturally Speaking. If you have an iPhone or your Android phone, there are other little apps that'll transcribe your voice.
Okay.
So you can do that. Okay. Yeah, Dragon Naturally Speaking.
Is that an app?
That is actually software.
Okay.
That is software, but there are apps that that'll transcribe for you. That come with your phone. I think some of the apps are free, and you get what you pay for, but it'll be enough that when you go in and look at it, you know what you were trying to say, and you can just kind of fix things. But there is nothing wrong with doing an audio journal.
Oh,
You
okay.
can
Because
talk
I was
it.
going to
You
say,
can
do I
talk
now
it.
have to take everything I recorded and write it down?
You can have your computer transcribe it, and then you
Okay.
go in and make it pretty later.
Or come see you and say, Annette, fix this.
What do we do with this? And I'll help you. That's that whole developmental editing. We'll start pulling it together and then kind of work through that. But yeah,
Okay.
nothing wrong with talking your journal, talking your thoughts.
Annette, this has been wonderful, wonderful. Odell and I have, this is our 14th podcast, actually.
Excellent.
And so our journey has been amazing. And what we try to do is talk about trauma and how it really can impact a person's life, be it temporary or permanently. But we also now, with this series, we've tried to move from where we were now into action and begin to help ourselves.
Right.
As I shared earlier on, we always will share with people that we're not psychologists, but if they need to see someone, to see a counselor or a doctor, to please do so. But our journey here in the podcast is try and give people alternatives. And one would be exactly in your expertise, the journaling. Begin to write your story down. And so thank you so much for all that you do. And your sister circle. And I know that we're going to share that website because I am really interested in getting involved in that.
Yes, thank you
I
for
know
having
I'm
me.
not going to be the VIP that
Don't
Odell is.
don't get me kicked out.
I'm going to see her see a VIP pin, and it's just going to be made up because she just has to show me that she's a VIP. But I asked for something very special for Christmas. I'm going to let Odell share that.
And that's why I'm wearing this silly Christmas hat for you today. So we always encourage people to please click on our subscribe button, like the podcast, subscribe, share it with someone, because there's always someone out there who needs to hear this story. We did this series intentionally because not everyone is always happy during the holidays.
Right.
It's COVID. And anxiety, depression, you're seeing it. People's writing is dark, it's light, it varies. So we wanted to make sure that we could give people alternative things to think about that are new and different to keep you excited and keep your motivation and spirits high while you're going through this pandemic. So this is the end of our 3-part series, Pursuit of Happiness. And we're taking a break for the holiday. Cathy, you want to talk about our January series because you selected it?
Yes, but you forgot to tell her what I asked Santa for.
Oh, I did. Oh, we need what did I say? 500 subscribers for our YouTube page.
Yes.
So yes, so like us, share us, 500 subscribers. So please like and share, and I will be posting and make my Santa hat.
So one of the reasons that we had Rob Fulton on this evening to our podcast is because we're going to be transitioning to a series talking about men. And we always seem to focus, or in general, we always think that women are more open to talking about their feelings and personal traumas that they have gone through. But we know that men are out there as well. And so we're going to start our new series in January called A Few Good Men. And we're really excited about that. And we welcome our audience to come back and join us in January. We cannot wait to share that with you. And again, Annette, thank you so much for all that you shared with us this evening. I can't wait to start journaling. It's going to be baby steps. I know it's going to be baby steps. So, but thank you. And Odell, I'll miss you over the holiday. But I can't wait to come back with you in January.
Me too. Now, are you going to see the grandbaby?
No, because of COVID.
Okay.
But
all the more reason for you to journal. Think of it as this is the story I want to tell my grandbaby about today.
Oh, don't do that, man. She really gonna start journaling now.
I know, with my tears because I can't get to her. But thank you. No, we're gonna play it safe. But we are also blessed that we live in a time that I can actually still see her through Zoom, through my Echo show, so I can still see her.
All right. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you for listening to our show.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Happy Kwanzaa.